Hey, good morning, everyone. Today is week 27 of the Homes and Money Realtor Mastermind. And today we get a little bit of a reboot. I had previously got Brittney to be a guest, and then there was this emergency with one of her listings that is really kind of a unique property, had a horse barn and other stuff. So we were totally understanding on that, and we get a reboot today. She was very concerned about making sure we got it rescheduled because she wanted to make sure that we could tell her story. So, Brittney, thanks for being here this morning. I appreciate you.
Of course.
So, a couple of questions, and by the way, I have to give a plug to my buddy Patrick. If you have not seen it, the most recent edition of Real Producers, Brittney and her husband Drew and the rest of the team are featured in that magazine, and it's done very, very well. I read it myself. So okay, so Brittney, if you people haven't seen that, have you been in the Cincinnati area your entire life?
No, I am from the South, proudly from the South, which is why I think my Southern hospitality has kind of awarded me some success up here, because people aren't used to people being nice or kind. But it's funny because we have clients who move from the Northeast or from the West, and they're like, oh my God, everybody in Cincinnati is so nice. I felt the complete opposite when I moved here. I was like, why is everybody so mean and in a hurry? But no, I've been here for 13 years though, so I claim it as home now.
And so just a little fun piece of information, since you're from the South, I spent a lot of my childhood in Arlington, Texas, and Nashville, Tennessee. So Brittney, is it pop or soda or Coke? What do you call it?
It's soda.
Okay. Yeah, right. And it changes based on where you live, as you all know. Okay. So when did you get started in real estate?
I am going to say 19, because that's when we bought our first home. And I think if you polled the average buyer, age 19 is not the first time that they buy a house. So Drew and I used real estate as a means to get ahead in life for about 10 years before I got my salesperson license in 2017. So prior to getting my license, we were doing real estate, just personally, investments and things of that nature.
Yeah. So she said, and it says this in the article, if you have a chance to read it, at age 19, they started with their first home and then just kind of gradually did, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of more like personal live-in and sell flips,
Yes.
than anything else. And that, I mean, you talk about the last 15 years, 17 years, a lot of people have done it that way. I mean, there was, we used to call those move-up buyers, and now we have first-time home buyers that have a totally different expectation level. So this mindset of building wealth through real estate is something that needs to continue to be preached, in my opinion. So, and then at what point did you and Drew, so you mentioned that you got your license in 2017? Okay.
Yeah.
And then at what point did you decide that it was time to build a team?
Well, I needed help. That's when I decided I needed a team, is because I was taking on too much business for one person to handle. My husband had built a very lucrative career over a 20-year span in construction management, had worked his way up the private sector's ladder to vice president role, and new ownership had made him miserable in that. And we kind of had this point of, hey, you're miserable and I need help. So are you coming on board to help me, or am I going to have to start hiring other people because I need serious help? So that's kind of what happened when we decided to start a team.
Okay. And when you did that, because a lot of people, and even people that are on here today, are still on their own. When you did that, how did you decide what Drew was going to do and what you were going to continue to do?
I think it's a little bit different when you have a husband and wife situation, starting a team, and then obviously we've onboarded several other agents since then, but knowing that other person's weaknesses and their strengths. So I knew what I was really good at and what I could continue doing at a high level. And I knew what he was really good at and the way that he could plug in, because you can't hire people and then kind of force them into a role that doesn't complement their strengths. So it's very important to know, hey, Drew's really good at this, Brittney's really good at this. Okay, you take over here, I'm going to take over here, and then together we're just gonna, and that would go same if it's not a husband and wife situation and just anyone. You want to find someone who complements everything that you're not good at and everything that you are good at for it to work.
Sure. And so you mentioned that the team has grown to other team members. And I'm just curious, if you were hiring the next person, what's the next team member that you and Drew have thought of that's like, that's the next need that we have?
Well, exciting news is we're opening in Kentucky soon. So the next team members we're going to be looking for are going to be Kentucky rooted agents. I think we already have an office manager lined up, maybe an admin lined up as well. So just agents who are like-minded in the brand that we have built and have so lovingly expanded upon. They have to kind of fall in line with that, but also be their own person. So that's our next thing.
Awesome. And so that's a perfect, I didn't ask it that way, but that's a perfect lead into the brand that you have built, and you made the decision to start your own company, your own brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the main driving force behind that?
So I'm going to roll back to 2017. So January 2017, I signed up for real estate classes to be a salesperson. And I would drive through downtown Loveland every day to drive to Westchester at Hondros, because you couldn't go online back then. And there was a corner, which is actually the corner spot that my office is in right now. And I would stop at the light, and it used to be Copper Pearl was the furniture refinishing store on the corner. And I'd look over and I'd say, all right, Lord, if I'm supposed to do this, I'm going to have my own brokerage right here on this corner. And I said that out loud hundreds of times, like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to have my own company and it's going to be right here. So I don't necessarily believe in manifesting things, but I do believe in the spoken word, and I do believe saying it out loud. So I had kind of, and even when I onboarded as a baby, brand new agent, wet behind the ears, I told that broker, and she probably thought I was crazy. It's like, yeah, I'm going to have my own brokerage, and I think I'm going to open up shop in downtown Loveland. And she's like, oh, okay, sign here. And then just 3 short years later, that's exactly what we did. So we had opportunities. Obviously, I got my broker's license in 2020. So 3 years after I got my salesperson license, and we had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity come across the table, because they kind of stock that state site. When you get your broker's license, everybody, if you want to do that, buckle in for the calls you're going to get. You don't even get past the exam, and you got, corporate offices out of Colorado and Texas, and they're all trying to sell you a franchise, and they're taking you to Jeff Ruby's and flying you in and, showing you headquarters. And none of that made sense for what we had been doing and what we kind of had visualized for our future to be. So we ended up going boutique route, and now we're our own boss.
And what is obviously the own boss piece is huge. I understand that from my perspective, but what is the big benefit to having your own real estate company and your own brokerage?
Well, it was pretty similar across the board with all of the franchise opportunities that you have in and around this region. There are quotas you have to meet. So by the end of your first year, you got to hire 35 agents, whether they suck or not. After your second year, you got to hire. So there was quotas every quarter, every year. And then there were obviously ramifications if you didn't meet those quotas. And I would sit there and I'd say, yeah, but what if I just had an elite group of people who take this as serious as I do, and we can do exactly what we want to do with just, say, 12 people? Why would I want 150? Because I'm legally responsible for those 150 people. That makes no sense to me. And they'd say, well, I guess if you put it like that. I'm like, So for us, we want to work with high-level performers who have the same characteristics, ethics, values, beliefs, and high-level standards of service and care that we have kind of put in place, because when people call us, they have expectations. So we're not looking for, part-timers. When you buy a different brand or a different company and into that corporate kind of style thing, you have to hire part-timers because you have that quota to meet.
Sure. Sure. And you mentioned this, and I think this is huge regardless of what industry you're in. You mentioned in the article that she says, I'm sure most entrepreneurs would admit it would have been nice to have been given the roadmap to success before starting our own business. And listen, I've said that in the mortgage industry so many times, like if there was a manual I could have followed, like,
That'd be
so
real nice.
yeah, so my question is, and you already know what I'm going to ask is, what are the significant challenges that you've had to overcome with starting on your own and not having the big business backing that, a lot of those franchises are trying to get you to do?
It's exactly not having the roadmap. I'd say the back end, so the office back end stuff, the administrative stuff, like that is not the way that my brain is wired. So when it's like, hey, we have to get E&O insurance, and hey, we have to open this account and this LLC and this, and I'm just like, can somebody else do that? Anybody else do that? Because I don't want to do that, and it makes my brain want to cry. So that has been for me, because I'm a visionary style entrepreneur. I have all these dreams that I take action towards. But I go through like a hurricane and a tornado with my visions. And then there's got to be somebody back here that's able to like capture everything that's flinging behind me, put them all together in a nice, neat, orderly fashion. And that's where Drew came into play. Not that he wanted to go from vice president of a company and hundreds of people, under him to that role, but he is very gifted and talented in being able to know what I'm thinking before I think it and capture the pieces that are flying behind me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, switching gears a little bit, and well, actually, I want to ask one more on this concept, because you mentioned being at that stoplight every day and looking at the corner, and I'm going to give a little tip off. Next week's guest is Jessica Mills, and she's on here listening today. She also has like a storefront concept. What do you feel like are the biggest benefits to having that, like on the corner, branding, et cetera? I mean, do you get a lot of walk-in traffic, or do you feel like it's just the branding of having that local presence that then causes people to want to, work with you?
Both. We have both. We have a lot of walk-in, but we have a very active lifestyle town that we have decided to have our flagship office out of. Obviously, the spring, summer, and fall months are way busier than the winter months, but we have gotten listings. We have gotten calls, numerous dozens, just saying, hey, I drive by your office 19,000 times a day. I don't even know who you are, but I knew when I was ready to buy or sell, I was calling you just because they sit at the stoplight and they're just watching the TV scroll and looking at our awning. So it's been very beneficial for us. It's taken us to another level.
That's great. That's great. Okay, so switching gears. Everybody knows this. We have an inventory problem, and it doesn't seem like it's getting fixed anytime soon. And if you knew how to fix it, Brittney, then let's figure it out. But what creative things can other agents be doing to find inventory?
So a fun fact about BF Realty and every single agent on our team, including Drew and I, we have never purchased a lead ever. So in that magazine, if you open to the back, we are number 3 in the greater Cincinnati area and have never purchased an online lead. So first and foremost, that's creative idea number 1. Stop going for the instant gratification that you're going to get this online lead and it's going to turn into a check. And then what? You have to keep buying those leads to keep getting your checks. So to delve into more of the organic foundational growth instead of looking at the shiny apple in front of you, because us agents love to buy that shiny apple that's dangling in front of us, because it might turn into a listing or it might turn into a sale. So number 1 is you can have a high level of success and not have to dabble with online leads at all.
Okay. And then what else to find inventory?
So 15% of your own sphere is going to move this year. So if you think there's 150 people, which is like dumbed down basic database, right? This is like beginner level database. So there's 150 people that you have in your sphere, in your database. That's 22.5 people who are going to move this year. How are you going to identify those people? How do you find out who the 22.5 people are in your sphere that you already know? So if you're not paying them any attention, everybody knows 12 agents that are licensed. Okay. So if you're not top of mind in your own database, in your own sphere, they're going to call their neighbor whose cousin is an agent. They're not going to call you because they don't hear from you, even though you got them on a drip campaign. Nobody cares about that. So getting personal, doing the hard stuff. Organic growth is very hard. It's a lot harder than just sending Zillow money every month. But if you could pick up 22.5 sales minimum, that's if you only have 150 people in your database for free, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, Brittney is, for those of you that know me or don't know me, Brittney is speaking my language hardcore. Like I associate with database nerd stuff, right? And what she's talking about is that the rules of database marketing, regardless of real estate or, selling chocolate, whatever it is, the rules of database marketing say that in any given year, 10 to 20%, depending on your industry, will do a transaction each year. So basically, if you had 1,000 people, that you'd have anywhere from 100 to 150 people that would be doing a real estate transaction this year. And then think about it, you'd have another 100 to 150 next year and another 100 to 100, and it just continues to snowball like that. So Brittney, you're speaking my language. I'm a huge analytics geek and database nerd, self-admitted. And that is just a proven fact. So
yep, it works. I sit here today in this chair, having never bought a lead ever, and being number 3 in the entire greater Cincinnati area, and have built what we have built by doing just that. The end.
Yep.
There's no magic sauce. There is magic sauce, but the basics of the magic sauce is love your own people.
Yep. Okay. Experts are predicting that we will see a reduction in interest rates in the coming months. So it initially thought that we might see it by July. Today, by the way, great reading. Inflation is the lowest that it's been in 2 years. That's going to help with interest rates. So they're predicting that we're going to see a reduction in the coming months. With the limited supply of homes, this will likely increase the demand and cause prices to rise further. Sorry. What steps are you taking to prepare your buyers and sellers for this?
Well, inventory's up too, so that's good. We're seeing, especially on our seller side, we have 7 active listings right now. Woo! Normally, those listings would be pending in 2 days, right? So to think, we're going through our market analysis, we're doing comps for future listings, we're talking to our sellers and saying, hey, you're actually going to have someone else in your neighborhood as a competitor. So we are seeing the uptick in competition inventory wise. It's not enough to sustain the demand yet, but it is a far cry from what the last 2 years have been. So there's that. There's more options. So a buyer can go from here to here and pick which one they want to do the bidding war with. But it's not just one anymore. And also we let everybody know that you move when you need to move. So you need to mentally prepare yourself for that. So no matter, you make the best educated decision you can, but you can't time up the market because otherwise you're not living life. We had a family who, they were newlyweds. They wanted to start a family, but they kept putting it off. They kept putting it off because they were in their apartment and they just couldn't do what they needed to do to win a house in the heightened frenzy. And we were like, stop putting your life on hold. Like, start your family. We will figure out this part. And the same goes vice versa. You don't wait for interest rates to go down. You don't wait for the market to crash. You have to live your life because tomorrow's not promised. So if this house or this living situation doesn't meet your lifestyle right now, you have the means to change it. And we'll do the best that we can in that moment, but there's never a good time to get married. There's never a good time to have kids. There's never a good time to start a new career. And there's never a good time to move. You just do it as your life deems it necessary.
Right. And I think people often forget that the interest rates are part of a vehicle based on need, right? We talked about before we hit record that, there was this extremely large number of cash buyers in March of 23. Think about that. Like for those people, interest rates didn't necessarily matter because they had another option. They could have taken an interest rate, but again, I think the important thing for a lot of agents and people that talk about the real estate market on a daily basis is a lot of it depends on our mood and our outlook. And if you look at it as an interest rate is just something that exists, whether you need it or not, that changes perspective significantly. You mentioned that you got into the business in 2017, and ironically, interest rates are about exactly what they were in 2017. People's perspectives have changed because they could have got 2% back during COVID. So
yeah, with those artificially low interest rates
yeah,
that I keep saying, I was like, they were artificial. They weren't real. They were real, but not really.
yeah. So the only challenge to the comparing the times, which of course you already know this, is that we had a lot different inventory situation back then, and so that's compounding our issue right now. But okay, so what you talk about preparing people in that there's never a good time, and I'm sure you use a set of tools or series of conversations with them preparing, say, a buyer to go into multiple listings, right? What types of tools do you use for that?
We do, which is going to sound so dinosaur-y because nobody does this anymore. We still do buyer's consultations. And that doesn't mean we're bringing them in the office and like going through an itemized bullet point list. Yes, that's great if you can do that. And I tell my agents not to shy away from doing that. We will do it in the driveway of a showing. We will do it at Starbucks. We will do it over the phone. But regardless of where or how it happens, setting those expectations up front is critical. This is what you can expect this weekend. I will let you know if it changes otherwise. So it's good to, because they have no idea. You're the expert. So you have to tell them what to expect. Otherwise, you're setting yourself and them up for failure, for buyer fatigue, and for running yourself ragged because they're not going to know that they need to bid 20% higher than what this house is. And so when they can look at a house as you're sending them and say, okay, Brittney said that we're going to have to bid this much higher at this price point to win a house, and we're going to have to, do buyer's info only for inspections, or we're going to have to give more earnest money or whatever. Do I really want to see that house? Is that house worth my energy to go see it and to throw my hat in the ring? Because she's told us what's expected. So buyer's consultations all day long. And then we do the similar system on the selling side because it changes every week. Hey, if you have a neighbor for sale, or if you had some Yahoo come in and drag your comps down by underpricing a house by $100,000, then that's an uphill battle. So let's set expectations there on how many times we have to sell a home, what that looks like, the different negotiation periods in a purchase contract, and how we can set you up for the best success. So different pricing strategies, how to combat things and how to be proactive about things, and just setting the expectations because they have no clue. They, what they know about? They know about the headlines on Business Career. They know what they're reading on Facebook. They know what their Uncle John's telling them. They know, but they don't know because they don't do this ears deep every single day. So it's on us to tell them and set those expectations.
Sure. So on the buyer side, are you doing, it sounds like you're doing this, but are you doing a great job of telling your 3% down or your 5% down buyers when they really shouldn't jump in the ring on a negotiation because of appraisal gap strategies and stuff like that? Is that a big part of that buyer's consultation for you?
Oh, absolutely. We let them know, hey, this is what it looks like. We kind of flip the script. We say, let's flip the table here. I'm going to make you a seller. Okay. You have 8 offers. Offer A is da, 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 da. Offer B is da, 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 da. Offer C is da, 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 da. Which one are you picking? And they're like, A. I'm like, okay, you're at a C level. So what can we do to get you to at least a B plus? Or that's fine. If you can't get to the B plus by the time you need to move for your lifestyle, then we're going to start looking at houses that are down here, where I know your dream is right here, but we're going to look down here because you can't look up here. You're not an A or a B, you're a C level offerer because of strictly your financial situation.
And I would assume that you tell your personal story a lot to those people about the move up and, you know, being able to buy. Again, I said this on a previous mastermind, but it seems like we've totally retired the term starter home. You know?
Yeah, we hammer that point home too with especially our first time home buyers. We still do buyers consultations, even if they've bought 4 houses. That's a weird thing. And they've never had someone take the time to explain it the way that we do. So now they're life clients because they use some other Yahoo 4 other times. And now they will be with us for life because we explained what earnest money was and how it actually works and things like that. But our first time home buyers are looking, and I'm sure everybody on here can relate and all the agents can relate. They want their dream home, their forever home. And you're like, that's not how this works. It's a means to get ahead. So you buy your little dumper. Okay. It's your first house. You stay there for a minimum 2 years, make it cute sells. And in any market, as Drew and I's story has been, you can make a little jingle in your pocket every couple of years to get to your dream home, but you're not getting your forever home the first time around.
Yep. Yeah, it's so true. And again, when you study, I've already told you I'm a nerd about this stuff, but when you study the demographics, I mean, the millennial generation came out of college expecting a lot different job and salary structure than we did when we, you know, came out of college. And so expectations have changed, and it's on us as professionals to manage those expectations and try to, you know, help level them out a little bit, not defeat them, but level out the expectations so that they have a chance to win.
Certainly.
Yep. Okay. Who's got questions for Brittney?
Don't everybody talk at once.
Feel free to either put them in the chat or you can unmute. Doesn't matter.
I'm so good they have no questions.
I've got a follow-up to the private company thing. And that is the way that you market that differently because you're selling a story and telling. Yeah. And so how do you go about that?
It's the difference between I always use it. Well, it depends on where I'm at. If I'm in Loveland, I'm using Lemons and Limes Boutique, which is next door to our office. And everybody loves that boutique store and they spend their entire paychecks on there. But it's the difference between shopping at Target or shopping at Lemons and Limes, except they're the same price. So which one would you rather shop at? And 10 times out of 10, they're like, Lemons and Limes. I'm like, okay, good. It's exactly the same thing here because we can offer everything the big box brands do. And we can also tailor and customize things because we're here and we have the freedom to do what we want.
Yeah, that is so true. Again, I'm a private business owner. I love the sell local concept, buy local concept. You know, I don't hate the other way. It's just the way that I've always done it. And so you have to tell a different story. Also on the private business side, where do you turn for like technology solutions? And, you know, because obviously some of the big outfits and big brokerages, they've got tech people on staff that go through this stuff. How are you learning about that and staying at the cutting edge for your business?
So I obviously, as a new agent, had been at 2 different big bucks brand brokerages. So I and with both of them, I watched both of them go through an old system and roll out a new system. So really, I've been exposed to 4 different systems on the marketing, CRM and blah, blah. And honestly, I never used them because they were awful. So what we learned, what we've been able to do over the years is we've been able to pick up things from our journey that work and pick up things from our journey that we're like, we will never do that because that's terrible. So I think we had enough exposure to, yeah, sure, this corporate brand offers this CRM that I don't even use. So that's not really a value add to me or my business, because we were using our own CRM outside of what they were offering us already. So when we started our own boutique brokerage and private company, it was like, well, we can do better than that, because we can find something that actually works and then offer it to our agents. So we, when I say we, I mean Drew. Drew did a lot of research, discovery, lots of Zoom calls, playing around with 30-day trials to see if we liked it ourselves, and the benefits of it, if they were really worth spending the money. So we got cream of the crop agents, we have cream of the crop systems, and cream of the crop services. So, and that's kind of how we've gotten there.
Great. I have one last question, and it seems like we've got a quiet group today, but being in the heart of Loveland, and that's kind of where you've, it looks like Dustin may be asking us a question here in a minute, but being in the heart of Loveland, and that's where you've kind of built your roots in your business. From what I tipped off earlier, you'll sell anything, right? Like you had a listing that had horses and a horse barn and stable and all that stuff. But is there anything that you would say, this is really my bread and butter, my specialty?
Our specialty obviously is the area of Loveland, and Loveland is known for a certain demographic. Certainly we meet that demographic as well. We shotgun what is nearest to us and people who relate to us on whether it's a spouse or family or just geographical area. So that is where we kind of shotgun to, because that's the easiest. And then, as shotguns do, as my first paragraph in my article says, shotgun spray, right? So you shotgun what you're really good at and what where your roots are planted. And then from there, it will spread out because of the word of mouth and the walking billboards and the raving fans that you'll create because of your good service. So, but we have an equestrian center for sale right now for 1.7, and we have sold 50,000 dumps and Peebles. So we will sell anything and everything. Our business model is that if they were brought to us, it's because we were meant to help them. We do seek out the opportunities for new inventory and new clients, but a lot of times they come to us, and that is our read on we're supposed to help them.
That's great. All right, Dustin, you got a question for Brittney?
Yes. So I thought about starting my own brokerage like years ago. Like I kind of had that idea since 2017, 18. I got licensed in 15. And then I just kind of was like, maybe I'll just continue being an agent. Like you can still make great money. And I don't really want to like run a business, I guess, but I wanted to ask why you decided to kind of start your own brokerage and not do a franchise.
Because of the quota part that we talked about was one major thing. So there was one that was the number one. There were several number twos. So I didn't want someone barking orders at me from Colorado or Texas or wherever to say, hey, you need to have this many agents under you, because then I have to hire part-timers. Then I have to just take on new agents who they're going to sit at my table and I'm going to say, you're going to suck, but sign here because I need you. Going to tell corporate I hired an extra agent, even though you're not going to make me any money. You're actually going to cost me money and you're more legal liability for me. So that was literally my number one issue with every single person we went to dinner with and looked at their franchise packages with. Number two is I kind of had a vision from the time I was driving by the corner and looking at that corner lot and saying, I'm going to have my own company and I'm going to have it right here, on what it could look like. And we're very picky with who we work with and who we bring on. We don't just bring on anyone because we do, again, the brand is such that people have expectations when they call into BF Realty and they get another agent from the office and not just me. They have expectations of service, care, response time, communication, negotiation skills. So I knew that I just wanted an elite team and company, and you can't really, think of any other brokerage in the region who only has elite people. It doesn't exist, right? Everybody has 300 agents and 10 that sell.
Sotheby's.
I'm like, yeah, so you can, so we just wanted to create, and actually there's a term for what we've done. It's a teamridge. So they actually are prevalent throughout the rest of the country and bigger cities. So think Atlanta, think New York, think out in California. Teamridges are team leads who have opened up their own brokerage, or brokerages who have decided to take on the team lead model. So either one, but we're the first one in this area and it's working.
Okay. All right.
Great. Good question, Dustin. Good question.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, Brittney, I am so grateful for this. And, having number 3 on as a guest is fantastic. I'm excited to see as you make your quest for number 1 and, continue to move up and grow. And obviously it's fun to watch. So I appreciate you. And like I said, next week is Jessica Mills. Excited about that. I've known Jessica for a little bit and I'm excited to talk to her. And I appreciate everybody's continued support. So Brittney, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me on.
All right. We'll see you guys. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thanks. Thanks, Brittany.